Welcome to the pre-show for tonight's ATMSP Live. Tonight we have an educational session on how to build a simple sales funnel. Most MSPs do not like to do sales and marketing, but it's a necessary evil if you're going to consistently grow a business. The methods I'm going to show you tonight are some simple ideas, some simple things, but do require some work. They shouldn't cost you any money unless you decide to hire or outsource the work. Two very valuable resources that I think every MSP can use are a pair of books. First, The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, this one right here, to put you in the mindset of an entrepreneur, not just a technician that owns their own job. You'll have to read the book to find out the difference. Second is The One-Page Marketing Plan by Alan Dibb. This book is the simplest marketing book I've ever found, and I think it's a must-read for MSPs that want to grow their business because it just gives them that basic understanding of marketing that everybody needs. These are the books that fundamentally changed my business, and I know they'll change yours too. I'll be back after a few words from tonight's sponsors. Have you ever wondered how much time your team spends in meetings and what the real impact was? Well, wonder no more. With Produce 8's latest release, you're getting insights into meeting effectiveness and productivity metrics that will improve the way you do business. Some of the benefits are seamless integrations with leading platforms such as Google Calendar, Outlook, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, and Slack to help you streamline meetings, especially for your MSP teams. Executive dashboards help gain insights into meeting investments, including salary breakdowns and resource allocation. That gives you enhanced views into profitability. Team sentiment analysis provides understanding of employee morale through user sentiment analysis, leveraging feedback to improve productivity and workplace well-being. Team empowerment gives access to personalized reports, real-time metrics, and goal-setting features for better work-life balance and productivity control. Explore how Produce 8 is revolutionizing the MSP landscape at atmsp.link/Produce8. Improve your productivity and propel your MSP business to new heights with Produce 8. Comtech Systems specializes in UCaaS, CCaaS, internet circuits, and more. Their top-selling product, Microsoft Teams Voice, ensures seamless communication experiences. When you team up with Comtech, your customers get continuity with one dedicated rep, smooth onboarding processes, local deployment and ongoing US-based support, transparent pricing, and optimization of assets. With an impressive 4.9-star rating on Google Reviews, their rating reflects the dedication of their team. Ready to drive business success? Schedule a one-on-one with Abby Smith at 412-519-2652. Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of All Things MSP Live. Really do appreciate you guys hanging out with me on a Wednesday night. Now, tonight we have something, that I'd like to bring up every once in a while, and that's kind of an educational session. It's usually when we don't have a guest, and there'll be guests coming up soon. Now, I do want to say that next week's episode, you will not want to miss it, okay? First of all, you won't want to miss it, but it is a recorded session, but it's a recorded session you've never seen before. It is on shared responsibility and the shared responsibility matrix when we're dealing with cybersecurity. And it has my good friend Rafi Jamgochin on it. And it is one of the best conversations I think I've ever been a part of when it comes to shared responsibility, because one of my, I guess I should say, issues with a lot of the conversations around shared responsibility is that it doesn't go very deep. It doesn't explain what they mean by shared responsibility when it comes to cybersecurity. So Rafi did a great job of explaining it and giving lots of examples. And so we'll definitely get into that in next week's show. But the reason I won't be doing next week's show live is because I will be at the ACES conference. So if you are at the ACES conference, come by and see me. I'll be wandering around, helping Justin out as much as I can. And then, of course, All Things MSP is sponsoring the dinner the one night. So definitely looking forward to seeing everybody there. All right. So tonight's episode is about a simplified sales funnel. So let me go ahead. I do have a slide deck for this one. So let me go ahead and bring it up. And let me make things a little bit bigger just so that I can see the slides a little bit better. Anyway, I wanted to bring this up because number one, in the 2024 member survey, a lot of you mentioned that sales was something that we should talk about more here on All Things MSP. And I don't disagree because it is one of the things that many MSPs just almost kind of don't want to deal with. And many of you existed for a long time on referrals and didn't have to do a lot of sales. And either you've changed and you want to grow, or you want to take it a step further and replace those customers that are, every once in a while you have a customer that churns, right? So you got to replace those customers. Those customers are not as easy to replace as they used to be. So it's just one of those things that from time to time you may need to replace one or two. So what I've put together is my opinion on what a simple sales funnel would look like for an MSP. Now, put a little joke down here. It does say powered by caffeine and hard work. Okay. Less the caffeine, because obviously not everybody can use caffeine, but hard work, absolutely. Sales is not difficult. Doesn't have to be difficult. It can be very difficult, but it quite frequently is hard work. You got to put in the time, you got to put in the effort. So anyway, let's get started and let's talk about this simplified sales funnel. Okay, so this is kind of the agenda for tonight. What is a sales funnel? Defining your ideal client profile. That's kind of a prerequisite to doing this. And I wanted to include it because if you don't have this, the other pieces don't fall into place. You have to be findable. So we'll talk about that. You have to create compelling content. Okay. So that's important. You have to capture their information. So when they have gone through they found you, they've read your compelling content. Now you need to capture them. You need to, kind of, I don't want to say grab them in, but hold on. It's about the storm here tonight. So of course, my sinuses are acting up. But you want to capture their information as soon as they are ready to engage. One of the dynamics that I'm going to talk about tonight is how the reason it's important to be findable and to have compelling content is most often they will rule you in or rule you out before they ever talk to you. So you need to make sure that you have content available that's going to convince them that you know how to solve their solution and you are at least one of the top 3 choices that they should evaluate. Okay. And then the next thing after capturing their information so that you can actually now reach out to them is you need to get a meeting. You need to get a meeting so that you can be face to face with them and describe how you're going to solve their problems. After, by the way, you listen to what their problems are so that you can then repeat back what those problems are and describe the solutions to them. And then some will, some won't. Next, there's a strategy behind, okay, you've had a meeting. And I think in my opinion, there's 3 buckets that people fall into after you've had the meeting. So we'll get into that. And then at the very end, I'll talk about some things that we can do to accelerate that, what you're doing here, accelerate the process of the sales funnel. All right. So give me just a second here. I'm going to go and just check the chat here real quick. Keith Nelson in the house, Mr. No Sales. That's because you are a solution seller, sir. People already know based on, your previous history of your expertise. And so when they approach you, they already know that you can solve their problem. And that's one of the benefits of doing this for a while is you get a reputation out there. And that's, by the way, that's one of the reasons why word of mouth works so well in the MSP industry is because people trust MSPs who have already solved problems for other people. So you need to have that proof. That's part of that compelling content that I was talking about to have on your website and to put the other places that I'll talk about a little bit later. All right. Okay. So, what is a sales funnel? I'm not going to read the thing. Basically, a sales funnel is, and they call it here a marketing model. I don't necessarily agree with it. I just grabbed the definition and put it in here so that I'd have a Webster's style definition. But what it really is, it's a sales and marketing model that allows you to kind of look at, with a holistic approach, the movement of people from top of funnel to bottom of funnel. So basically, how do you make people aware of you? How do you engage them? And then how do you convert them into a customer or a client? Now, the reason it's shaped as a funnel is because typically you start with a large number of people and it gradually funnels down into a smaller number of people as you get through the qualification process and all of that. Now, I'm not going to talk a lot about qualification and MQLs and SQLs and those kinds of things tonight. Those are the more technical marketing terms that you may see in a more complex situation. You're not going to see that in this. This is meant to be a simplified model. Okay, 4 important questions before we get started. You need to know who your ideal client is. You need to know what they need. You need to know what they want, because emotions play a part here. And where do they consume information? Those are the 4 basic things you need to know before you create your sales funnel. And here's my rundown of why. First of all, you can't focus on every kind of client. Okay. So you have to have a distinct audience, or once you get good at this, a distinct set of audiences that you are particularly trying to make aware of you and attract to your business, because those are the clients that work best. What do they need? What they need is going to determine how you build your product offerings. Okay. Now, I know this is different for everybody. This is the simple solution, right? The more complex solution is you actually create a custom solution for them. What we're talking about tonight is more the simplified version, a more productized type of offering. Okay. And then what do they want? Because what they need is not necessarily what they want. And they're going to buy what they want, not what they need. But you need to still supply what they need to solve the problem. Does that make sense? I hope it does. And then lastly, where do they consume information? One of the biggest changes that we've seen over the last probably 10 years is the fact that people are doing their own research first. They are not just picking up the phone and calling a bunch of people and asking them to come present their products or their services to them. They are doing research on the internet. They are looking on social media. They're looking at reviews, and they're consuming that information and narrowing it down, maybe to make a purchase. So they're narrowing it down to 1, or at best, they're probably narrowing it down to 3, and then they'll contact or reach out to those 3 and have those 3 present. All right. So, ideal client, building your ideal client profile. You need to figure out, who are they? Where do they search and consume data, like we said before? How do they behave? What do they need? Okay, so how do you do this? Well, first, you're going to identify your best existing clients, because your best existing clients are most likely going to look like your best new prospects. Okay, so you want to look and see, what do they look like? How profitable are they? And I mean profitable to you, not profitable in their own business, but how profitable are they to you? How many users do they typically have? Okay. How many, what's their annual revenue look like? What industry are they in? Those type of demographics. Okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to take those different criteria, you're going to look across those best clients and see if you see any similarities. Okay. And then where they consume information, because obviously you don't want to have to throw a really wide net and spend money advertising or spend time delivering content on a lot of different social media platforms or building a whole bunch of different landing pages for your website, right? Then you want to find out, why do they use you? Okay, this is an important part because a lot of times you won't really know why they use you. And if you don't know, asking them is the best way to find out. And it's the best way to be able to attract new prospects who would want to use you for the same reason. Building a persona for your ICP. Your ideal client's one thing, that's a business. Okay, your ideal client is a business. Your personas are going to be the people who actually make the decision to purchase. Okay. Now, for most MSPs who are probably watching this show, that is the business owner. It may be a manager. If there's a manager of the business, it may be a CFO. There may be a lot of different decision makers, but the main decision maker is the one you want to build a persona on. Now, one of the differences between a simple sales funnel, like the one we're talking about tonight, and a more complex sales funnel is that you are going to have more personas involved in the decision-making process. So you're going to need to describe or enumerate all of those personas. Okay. And I don't want to go into that tonight because, like I said, most MSPs who are probably watching this show have one primary decision maker at a prospect because they're dealing with those size businesses. Okay, what to look for in your best clients. Do you like working for them? I mean, if you're doing this and you hate it, why are you doing it? So let's not add more clients that you're going to hate to work for. Add the ones that you like working for. Do they generate an acceptable level of profit for you? Okay, it's important. We just had Sean Walsh and Dave Kava from the Pumpkin Plan for Managed Service Providers on the podcast not that long ago and talked about this very thing. Talked about how a lot of MSPs are carrying clients that have almost zero or even negative value to the business, and you need to weed those out. And you definitely don't want to be attracting more of those, right? Do you have specialized knowledge in their industry? I mean, this is one of those things where I had some specialized knowledge in manufacturing. So manufacturing clients were easier for me to get because I had experience. I understood the software that they were using and the processes that they used on the shop floors and things like that. Do you have other special advantages to serving those clients? Anything that makes your MSP unique, maybe it's an employee, maybe it's special knowledge, maybe it's special tools, but special advantages you have to serving those clients that will give you a leg up when trying to prospect to new clients. What makes them similar? Industry, are they in the same industry? Size, employees, revenue, geographics. And by geographics, I mean the size of the area that they cover. Location, where they're at. Okay. What their technology needs are, because one of the things that, especially with smaller MSPs, you benefit from standardization, right? And so if you have a bunch of clients that all use the same technology, that is much easier on your business from a tactical standpoint than having lots of different kinds of solutions for all different looks of clients, right? Business structure and decision makers. Again, your sales process is going to work easier if you can replicate it over and over again. And so the decision makers, the business structure, all of that, it's going to be easier if they are similar. And then the questions that you're going to want to ask them so that you can put all this together. Where do they consume information? Okay. Again, I know I'm going to harp on that, but it is super important that you know where they hang out and consume information in order to get your information, your brand in front of them. How do they make decisions? Okay. Because how they make decisions is probably how other businesses that look like them are going to make decisions. So very important to know that. What do they want out of a managed IT services provider? Okay. Because again, the companies that look like them are probably going to want the same thing. And then again, why did they use you? What makes you unique that you can put into your content that says, this is why I'm different. This is why these businesses come and work with me as their outsourced IT service provider. And all of that comes down to combining that and creating, at this stage, I would say 1 or 2 buyer personas at the most. Once you get bigger clients or more complex situations, you will probably have more than 2 personas. But you can create a client persona. It looks like a real person. Okay, the closer you can get to making your personas look like a real person, the better, because the importance of having a persona is that now you have a sheet of paper that you can literally look at and go, okay, I am this person. What type of advertising, what type of marketing, what type of content is going to be attractive to me if I am this person? And so that is very helpful when you're putting together all of this content to make sure that the decision makers, the ones who are actually going to decide whether or not they choose you as their IT service provider, that those people are getting the content that are going to answer their questions in the way that they want it to be presented. Example, okay? If this was a 50-year-old, you know, uh, ice cream shop owner, okay? Let's call it that. You are probably not going to attract them on TikTok, okay? You might, but it's probably not going to be the norm. Um, but you may find them on a Facebook page for their Chamber of Commerce or a Facebook group of small entrepreneurs in their local city. So that's why this matters. It speaks a lot to the where and the how. All right, I've been talking a lot, so let me just check and see if there are any more comments. All right. Be findable. Where do they search and consume data? Now, search is pretty easy because once you're on Google, you've got most of the audience anyway. There are other search engines, of course, but if you rank high on Google, you're probably going to rank pretty well on those as well. Consuming data, however, is a little different. This is probably mostly social media platforms. Okay. If it's a business, LinkedIn. If it's a more consumer type business, maybe Facebook. And of course, never forget the localized groups that are created on those different platforms. There may be different groups for, the city of Chicago or the Orlando area or, San Francisco area. You want to make sure that you're going geographic as well as industry. Okay. And there's probably some other ways to break that down as well. And consuming data as well. It's not just where do they search, it's where they consume data. So they would also consume data like on YouTube. Okay. And this goes for creating YouTube content or sponsoring YouTube content. Like I said at the beginning of the show, you don't have to spend a lot of money to do this. And that was my point, right? I wanted to create something simple that you put more work into than money so that you could get something out of it. But as we'll find out when we get to the accelerate session, money doesn't hurt. Basically here, what you're trying to do is make sure you're figuring out how to get in their eyes and their ears. Because if you never get in their eyes and their ears, you are never going to be the person that they choose. And I said ears here very specifically because podcasts for a while now have been very good ways to attract your target audiences. They're very cheap to produce, very easy to produce, and one of those things that I think everybody can do, especially if you're not comfortable on camera, because that's one of the keys with doing an audio podcast, an audio only podcast, is that you don't have to be on camera to do an audio podcast. And a lot more people are comfortable with that. All right. Top 3 places you need to be findable. Google. I'm sorry. It's obvious, but I had to put it up there because it is number 1. LinkedIn, because you're a business, right? So, and this goes for your personal LinkedIn. You've got to have stuff. You've got to have content there. You've got to have a well filled out LinkedIn profile. I'm not going to go into that. There's plenty of places you can search for what you should do to make sure that you have a complete LinkedIn profile, but also for your business. I see so many, especially small businesses, which most MSPs fall in the range of, that don't have business pages on LinkedIn. And it's so weird to me that you don't. It's a whole nother opportunity to be found by those other business owners. And it's another place for you to put content that is more related to the business than related to you. Now, I know because I was there, right? The business and us, the business owner of an MSP, are quite frequently very much one and the same. Okay, but you need to be better at separating that out. And here's why: you never necessarily expect an exit. If you are looking to an exit, you 100% have to do this, right? Because the business needs to stand on its own for it to have value. It needs to operate without you to have real value to a buyer. But, you know, even if you're not looking for an exit, stuff happens. We've talked about this on previous sessions before. You need to have an exit strategy, even if you're not planning on exiting, so that the people around you still get the best benefit of the business, whether it's being sold, whether it's being continued and run on. So again, just separate yourself a little bit from the business. It's okay to promote it. I'm not saying, create a wall in between. I'm just saying make them distinctly different for both. The business can be more ad and content related. Your personal page should probably be a little more thought leadership type of thing, because you're a leader. You're a leader in your business, and your personal LinkedIn profile should reflect that. All right. YouTube. It's the second largest search engine in the world. Okay. Now, I don't want to harp on this too much, but you should be creating video content, even if it's just for LinkedIn, but you should be putting it on YouTube too. Video content has so much more reach than text. And because YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, it is quite often the place that people go for especially for reviews and advice. Okay. So that's why YouTube. And other places, the other social media platforms, and that's going to depend again on your audience. Local directories, think Chamber of Commerce, those little newsletters, or even the placemats that have advertisements on them in your local sports bar, that kind of stuff. Local advertising, billboards. Believe it or not, billboards actually still do pretty well, and the prices come down. So, it depends on where you are, right? Because it depends on the traffic counts, but they can be very effective. A bench outside the local sports bar. I always throw this one in because this one worked wonders for me. This is probably the single best piece of advertising I ever did as an MSP. Now, small town, this particular sports bar, I would bet that almost of all the business people who ate out every day, every week, I would say that those people went to this sports bar at least once a week. And so my business was in front of those business owners at least once a week as they were walking into the restaurant every single time. And it's those types of persistent advertising that I really, really like. The more transient, like radio ads, TV ads, I'm not crazy about those. If you can get them at the right rate, and there's some competitive ways to do that now, it's not as bad. But billboards, permanent advertising, the trash cans outside of Walmart, that have the advertising on the four sides, probably not your target demographic. Okay. If Target had them, maybe, but Walmart, no. Yeah, so that's kind of my thing on advertising. Creating compelling content. This is the part that is probably going to be the hardest amount of work. The other stuff was kind of prep work. Okay. Being findable, you do it once. Okay. Pretty much, and you're done. You're probably going to update it every, maybe once a year to add more services or to be searchable for something else. Things come up, right? But content you are going to need to create on a consistent basis. In fact, I recommend creating a calendar and just start planning it out every month and say, I'm going to do this post, I'm going to do this video, I'm going to do this white paper, whatever it is, and create content consistently every single month. And to do that, you need to know what they need, what do they want, which we've covered, earlier tonight. Okay, let's talk about your website. Okay, needs to be what they need, not what you want. And I probably should have changed that. It needs to be what they want and not what you want. That probably would have made more sense. Well, would have been more accurate. I think this reads better. Uh, anyway, and what I mean there is because I was guilty of this, right? I created the website that I wanted, that talked about me, talked about my business. Now, of course, it did talk about what I could do for them and those kinds of things. But today, because we have this dynamic of they're going to evaluate you before they ever talk to you, your website is going to be the number one way they do that. Because I doubt that any of you are going to become prolific content creators. I'd love for you to be, but you're probably not going to be prolific content creators. And so you're not going to be in front of them every day that way and not really going to be searchable that way. However, your website's how they're going to find you, most likely. It may not be the first place they see you, but it is certainly the place they're going to find you, and absolutely is going to be where they research you. So make sure that you have the content on your website that answers their questions and shows you have and can solve the problems that they have. Okay. Now, of course, it needs to be SEO friendly for all of those things. And you need to make it easy for them to reach out by phone and to submit, like their email address or ask for a callback or something like that. A short, small form. Do not ask a survey just to get their one piece of contact information. And phone works, email works. One of the two, both is great, but you only need one of those two to actually reach out and be able to start that engagement. All right, top types of content, topic specific landing pages. This is going to help with SEO, and it's going to help with when they search for a particular problem, right? If it takes them to that specific landing page, you can address that particular problem rather than a generic homepage. Okay. Generic homepage is okay and it has its place. But if they're searching for a specific topic in your locale and for managed IT or for IT services in general, you want them to land on a specific page for that specific problem so that they can go, they get it. They can solve my problem. I'm going to reach out to them, which is another great point. Make sure that you give them the opportunity on that landing page to connect. Okay. Social media posts and comments, that should be pretty relevant. And, I'd love to give you some straight advice on that stuff, but it changes all the time. The algorithms are constantly changing. So there's, nothing that's terribly consistent there, except make it about the problems you solve, benefits, not features, and make sure that you're being polite, especially when you're commenting. And even more so, like if you're posting, on your own profile, that's fine. But if you are posting to a group, make sure you're following the rules of that group. Make sure you're not spamming a group. Make sure you're not advertising in a group unless you're a paid advertiser. And sometimes that will be beneficial. And it may be something that if you find a group that's really good for you, then maybe sponsoring that group is something that you want to consider. White papers. White papers give them an in-depth look at maybe a problem like theirs that you've already solved for somebody else, kind of like a testimonial, but written. Um, and speaking of testimonials, video. Okay. Video is, again, it's the content that connects the most with people. And if you don't want to be on video, use Upwork, use Fiverr. You can get things done very reasonably, and then you have content to put out. But testimonials are probably one of the best videos that you can do. And we're technical people. Okay, I'm speaking to my own crowd here, right? Most of you are technical. Most of you know how to pick up a phone and use the video camera on your phone to record somebody saying something nice about your business. In fact, most of your existing clients know how to pick up their phone and say something nice about your business. And so give them a discount, give them a Starbucks card, whatever it is, to create that video content for you. And that's video content that you can use to show on your website as well as in your social media posts. And sometimes even it's relevant for a comment, right? Somebody talks about a certain problem they're having, and you just happen to have a testimonial in your back pocket that talks about how you solved that problem for XYZ client. Why not respond with a link to your YouTube channel with that video in it? It works. When you're creating this content, though, I want you to remember two things. Make it relevant, make it memorable. Okay? Two easy things to remember. Make it relevant to the client and the problems that they're having, and make it memorable. Make it fun. You don't have to be great at video editing to have fun on camera, right? You don't, or you can hire somebody on Fiverr or Upwork to do the memorable part for you, but make sure that for whatever reason it's memorable. And sometimes, by the way, the worst videos are the most memorable. So don't worry about getting it perfect, because sometimes perfect is boring. So, mess up sometimes. Works for me. All right. Okay. Capture. You have to, when they have kind of pre-selected you by doing, reading your compelling content, right? If they've pre-selected you, you need to make it easy for them to reach out, but you also need to make sure that you're capturing that info. Like I said, you only need one of two pieces. You need an email address or you need a phone number. That's it. And their name. Preferably you want their name too. Sorry. I kind of thought that was assumed. But that information is enough for you to start reaching out to them from your side. See, everything that we've talked about in the first almost 40 minutes of tonight is them looking at you. Okay. Now, this is your first opportunity to actually go the other direction and reach out to them. Landing pages, make sure, again, that they're specific to a problem and solution, with a contact form on the page. Don't make them scroll or go to another page to be able to reach out to you. Okay. Put them in your CRM. If you don't have a CRM, I don't know what you're doing. I'm sorry. I'm just going to put it out there like that. Your PSA probably has enough of a CRM to get by. If you don't, you can use something like, I like a Biggin. It's by Zoho. If you're familiar with them, $15 a month. $15 a month. Come on. If you're in business and you can't afford $15 a month for one of the most valuable pieces of information in your business, which is the contact information for your clients and prospects, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you at this point. Okay. I'm trying to make it simple. And again, you don't need everything. Phone number, email, and name is enough to start. Next, and this is where the proactive piece goes. Now, you can always give them the option, because we have these wonderful tools now, right? Calendly and tools like them that you can use in order to create a meeting where they can just say, I want a meeting. Put that on the page. Put those on your land, put links like that, or the forms that you can create with those as on your landing pages. So they can just book a meeting right there. But if not, now you have their contact information. Your next step is to get the meeting. Now the meeting basically has three components to it. You have to prepare for it, because if you're unprepared, A, they're going to know, and B, you're just not going to be very effective. You need to be engaged. You need to bring the energy because you're setting the tone. And then follow up. So many people just fail to follow up well. Okay. Prepping. Okay. Do your research. Industry. What does their business look like? Size and structure. What is their current IT setup? If you can get that. Is there any relevant industry news that you can use to show that you're keeping up and you're actually interested in their industry? Now, don't do this falsely, right? Because remember, if we go back all the way to the beginning tonight, we talked about the ideal client profile. If these prospects look like your existing clients, you should already have relevant industry news because you should already be tracking that. Tell me I'm wrong. Custom pitch. The pitch should be different for each customer, okay? Because the solution is going to be slightly different because their problems are probably slightly different. Now, hopefully they're similar because you don't want to have things too different, but it needs to be for them. A value proposition specific to the prospect, because again, their business is different. And one of the things that I always had great success with was case studies and lookalike clients. Now, of course, you need permission to reveal that another client of yours is a client to another prospect or another client, because there's security issues there, right? There are privacy issues. You want to make sure that you're not revealing too much information, but it's like a testimonial, right? Just get permission to use it and do these case studies. And case studies you can do without revealing the name of the client. But if you have lookalike clients where you can actually use their name, that's going to better build up your credibility and show that you serve clients that look like them. And then make sure you have answers. This is part of the preparation, right? You can handle the objections. You can demonstrate expertise in solving the problems that they're having, that you have a basic knowledge of their industry and how it works. And then if you have certifications, make sure that you're showing those. Now, I know that this is a little bit controversial, and my opinion used to be that credentials really didn't matter. And on a factual scale, they probably don't. Okay. In reality, they probably don't. However, they do look impressive if you have them. So, and it does lend some more credibility to you and your business if you have some of those certifications. And just as a shameless plug, CompTIA Security Trust Mark. A lot of friends of mine are going through that right now. It's tough, but I think they're definitely going to see ROI from it once they've completed it. All right, holding the meeting face-to-face, always preferred, but you can do this over Zoom if you have to. In fact, post-pandemic, some people prefer to kind of gauge your client and how they feel about that. But face-to-face is preferred for a couple of reasons. Number one, nothing substitutes for being able to listen to what they're saying and watching what their body is telling you. Okay, body language matters. All the other sights, sounds, everything else, that they matter. And it's extra information that's going to help you form a response or a solution for that client. And then you are going to be able to transfer energy. Okay, you're going to be able to better set the tone if it's face to face. And so that's important as well. Focus on the client and their wants, not what you can do for them. Okay. That comes after they've already communicated what they want, because what they want, you tell them what they need. Okay. That's the order that should go in. Use visuals to communicate value. Don't communicate features, communicate value. Okay. and use them sparingly. Don't put, this is an educational session, okay? So that's why I have a lot of words on these slides, okay? And by the way, if anybody's interested in this slide deck, just let me know afterwards, and I'll let you have it. But if you're selling somebody, it should be mostly pictures, okay? Pictures that can convey emotions and value of what you're going to solve for them, how they're going to feel as a client of yours. And then ask for the sale. Never forget to ask for the sale. Now, low percentage of the time, are you going to get the sale right then and there? Because chances are you haven't learned enough to quote them, right? Or to even design a solution. But you might as well, because it's not going to hurt. And the best thing to do after that is, if they say no, is ask what you can do to get the sale. Okay. And then do it, because follow up, like I said, is important. So important, I made another slide for it. So follow up is the most important thing that you can do, because again, most of the time you won't close the sale at the meeting. Follow up is critical. There are going to be quotes, there are going to be answers that you need to give them. There's going to be solution engineering that needs to be done in order to figure out all of the pieces and parts that are going to go into this solution for this client. And by the way, one of the reasons why we want to put all of this information into your CRM is so that you can track the progress, you can track the follow-up, so that you don't miss any of these deadlines after the fact. Because here's the deal. You miss deadlines while you're trying to sell them something, they're going to assume you're going to miss deadlines when they paid you to deliver something. And that's probably not going to get you selected. Some will, some won't. Next. Now, this is actually something that I learned a long, long time ago. We're talking college days, selling Amway. And if you don't know what Amway is, don't look it up. It's basically multi-level marketing, right? But they had some actually good training materials, okay? That was the thing. I will not knock the days that I was doing Amway, because the training tapes, the sales training tapes that they had you listen to that were ridiculously expensive, and we bought them anyway, but they were good. Like, they taught me what I needed to know about sales, even though I really wasn't going into sales. Okay, enough of the Amway story. I divide prospects who aren't going straight into becoming a client into 3 buckets. Okay. Not now, qualified, and not qualified. Okay. Not now. They know and have expressed that you have the right solution for them. They just can't commit right now for whatever reason. Okay. This is very important. You need to find out exactly when or what needs to be done for them to commit. Okay. You need to write it down on a calendar, do it, so that when you go back to them and say, okay, the time has passed, we've done the things that you needed us to do to make this sale, it's time to sign the paper. Okay. It's hard for them to refuse that. It really is. Okay. So that's how the not now should go. Qualified, these are people who fit your ideal client profile, but they're either not experiencing enough pain, or they don't see you as the right solution quite yet to make a change, or to engage in a managed services agreement. Get them into a nurture sequence in your CRM, and make sure that you are reaching out, probably, I would say, once a week, but not the same way every week. I would alternate phone calls and emails. Do that for about 2-3 months. And then if they kind of drop off, then take it back to probably something once a month. Put them in the not qualified bucket, because that's the next one. And this is where they really don't fit your ideal client profile. And by the way, chances are if they're in the qualified and they don't respond after the 2 to 3 months of contacting them once a week, they're probably not really your ideal client, right? Either that or the existing MSP is so good, you're probably not going to displace them anyway until something breaks. And that's why we want to put them in the not qualified bucket, because as long as you are reaching out to them on a semi-regular basis, and here I say once a month, a slow drip nurture sequence is what I want to call it. And it keeps you top of mind. So if that other managed service provider messes up, hey, you are still the one who's been reaching out to them, and you're going to be top of mind. You're going to be one of the first people, hopefully, that they think of when they come to need another managed service provider. The other point here is if there's somebody who doesn't fit your ideal client profile, they may not fit it now, but they may in the future. So you might as well put them on an email list where you're slow dripping to them, give them some valuable information once a month that they can action in their business, and hope someday that they call you. Okay. Very rarely have I ever seen, if you're sharing valuable content with them on a monthly basis, that they will unsubscribe. Okay. Because that's not enough to be annoying. And you're delivering value with the email, not just trying to pitch them something. And I wouldn't even, in that drip nurture sequence, I wouldn't even ask them to contact you. They know how to contact you. They've been in contact with you before, and you're sending them an email. So all they have to do is reply to it. Simple enough. All right. Accelerate. This is really short. Basically, paid social, paid ads, outsourced lead gen. I've had Terry Hedden from Marketopia here on the show a couple of times in the last month. They certainly do this kind of work. But really, if you want to accelerate it and not have to put money into it, it's just hard work. Just put in the work. You put in the work, you put enough people in the top of the funnel, you'll get results out the other end. I promise you, it will work. It's a numbers game. Sales and marketing is a numbers game. You put enough people in the top of the funnel, you'll get a certain number of people out the bottom of the funnel. It just works that way. Now, how long it takes depends on how good you are at it, but the more you practice, the better you're going to get at it. That's one of the points to a sales funnel, is it's repeatable and it gives you a process to follow every time. All right, so that is my TED Talk for tonight, or in this case, a simplified sales funnel training. Really do appreciate you guys being here. I should check to see if there are any questions. Oh, and Keith's been blowing me up and I didn't see it. So first of all, let me finish with, before I get to Keith's questions, because we will do Q&A here at the end. Any questions, or if you want one-on-one training or consulting, feel free to reach out to me, eric@allthingsmsp.com. Super simple. All right. Let us go back to, I like that one better. Okay. So Keith says, I say face-to-face, not in an office for the first meeting. It's actually a really good idea, Keith, because in their office, there's going to be distractions. In your office, they're probably not going to be 100% comfortable. Okay. So things to keep in mind there. He says, make it the country club, exclusive restaurant, or similar. Provide the image of your success. Another reason to do it in another location, right, is to give them that image of success. I had a lawyer client of mine back in Orlando who originally, and I wish I could remember the model of car that he had when he started out as a lawyer. And another older attorney told him, you're not getting clients because of what you drive. And so he upgraded his car, and you know what? It worked. He upgraded his client list as well. So appearances do matter. Okay. It's not everything. Obviously, you have to deliver on that, but the look of success does matter to a lot of people. Keith says, pro tip for meet and greet, do not do big events. One-on-one to an event floor seats for a sporting event, send a limo service to get them, uh, and people do not cancel those events. Yes. So it depends on probably the value of your client, right? And what type of clients you're going after. Uh, in Keith's case, he's very selective about the clients that he chooses. And but the clients are worth it, right? And this is another thing. If your profit margin will handle it, the client really doesn't matter, right? As long as the client is paying you and you're getting a good profit margin on all these clients, doing things like this, spending this kind of money is you're really not spending that much when you're comparing it to what you're going to get out of what hopefully is going to be, many, many years of a contract. Not one contract for many, many years. We're not going to be, somebody else we know, but you should still have I 1 year contracts. They make sense. Okay. You're not going to do something for less than a year. Um, but hopefully that relationship, let's not talk about contracts, let's talk about relationships. That relationship is going to last for several years, and your profit margin is high enough. Taking them to a sporting event or some other type of special event on a one-on-one basis is not going to be terribly expensive, and I'll throw out another term here, uh, acquisition cost of a client. All right. It's hard for them to refuse your proposal if it aligns with the business outcomes, improves their outcomes, and increases the service value for their customers. Yes. As an IT service provider, you are no longer just their outsourced help desk. The new podcast, ATMSP Evolutions, that's coming out tomorrow. Now, because it's brand new, I don't know if it'll show up on the podcast platforms right away tomorrow. It will be available on YouTube tomorrow. That is something that we talked about in terms of fractional CTO or fractional CIO type services. If you affect their business outcomes, not just protect their expenses, you are going to be much more valuable to their business if you're actually having an effect on those business outcomes. When you sell services, commodities, he has in parentheses, or in, yeah, they feel like there is no deadline and price matters. Yes. Um, that is one of the things that we are seeing in the IT services industry right now, is that things like help desk, things like infrastructure management are becoming commoditized because the tools do a lot of the work. Automation does a lot of the work, right? AI is even replacing some people on the help desk. And so there's not as much value there. And also selling a commodity, because you're not solving a problem necessarily, you're probably just replacing somebody that they already have. Yeah, there's no deadline, and chances are if they're replacing a commodity, they're just trying to get it for cheaper. So Keith, thank you very much for those things. I do appreciate it. Hopefully you guys got something out of this tonight. I know that this is very specifically targeted at the smaller MSPs, but I also feel like they're the ones who get less love when we're talking about sales and marketing specifically. And so that's why I wanted to provide something very simple. Again, if you're interested in some one-on-one time or some consulting, please reach out to me, Eric at All Things MSP. It's Eric with a C, and I will get back to you, and we can talk about, and by the way, first phone call is free. I'm not going to charge you for the first phone call because who knows if it's even the right solution for you, right? Anyway, up next, I'm sure that, in fact, I know I've seen it. I don't remember what it's about, but Marvin B, Uncle Marv, does have a live stream tonight. So head on over there if you are not tired of MSP live streams for this evening, and we will see you next week. Well, I won't because I'll be at Aces, but there will be a live stream next week. And it's the one with Rafi Jamgochin. Yeah, great episode on shared responsibility matrix and stuff like that. Oh, so Keith is telling me that Brad Gross is on Uncle Marv tonight. Great. That you don't want to miss that. You should have skipped mine and gone to that one or something. All right. See you guys later. Have a great night.